What's happening, Hardscapers? Today we're going to be talking about paver options, different sizes, different textures, what they all mean, these different terminologies that we hear with face mix, through mix, and how to choose the right product for your project. Let's get into this. So when you initially get started in the hardscape industry, or if you're doing your own project, it can be a little bit overwhelming with the multiple choices that you have, different manufacturers, different products, different textures, different color blends, everything in between, and choosing the right product for your project. So we're going to break this down for you right here, right now. Let's start with thickness. We have pavers ranging from different thicknesses to go along with whether they are rated for pedestrian, vehicular traffic, or even a concrete overlay. Concrete overlays typically see something around 45 millimeters in thickness, or 1 3/4 of an inch in thickness for concrete overlays, and pavers can range from 60 to 80 millimeters, or 2 3/8 of an inch to about 3 1/8 of an inch, or even more, upwards of 100 millimeters, depending on what the aspect ratio or the surface area of that paver or slab has and what it needs to be able to withstand in terms of the load that is placed directly on top of it. In order to choose the right paver or slab for your project, for driveways, you need to take a look at the manufacturer's specifications to ensure that that paver or slab is right for vehicular traffic load. Otherwise, you will get cracks and breaking of that product. If you're installing a patio walkway where it's only going to see pedestrian traffic, you're likely in that 60 millimeter range, or 2 3/8 of an inch. Then we need to talk about permeability. There are pavers that have wider joint sizes built in to the sides of the pavers with spacer bars that create a wider joint, allowing for a permeable option if that's what you are going for. So if you are thinking about permeability, then you may want to opt for a permeable paver with a wider joint width. And if not, you've got several different options here. And we're going to talk about wet cast versus dry cast. And essentially, dry cast is using a drier mix of concrete, pouring it into a mold, and then that is compressed and vibrated to meet certain PSI requirements. And that is essentially dry cast versus wet cast, which is a concrete mix with a higher water ratio to it, and it is poured like a slurry into a mold. Now, in my experience with wet cast, I do notice a lot more variations in terms of the depths to them, the height differences, so that can be a little bit of a pain to work with. That being said, wet cast has this smooth surface that really looks nice if that's what you are going after, though if it does chip, you do see an exposed aggregate look to it. Not saying that dry cast doesn't have that same look if it does chip, but you definitely really notice it much more with that wet cast finish. At a wet cast product, you'll see these little air pockets. So that's something that can be aesthetically unpleasing if you're looking very closely at it. And typically, wet cast is more expensive than dry cast. And then speaking specifically about dry cast, there are two different technologies that go with this. There's the traditional technology of through mix and then face mix. And through mix is essentially through the entire paver. It's the same sort of mixture. In terms of that concrete mixture, you get those larger aggregate pieces that create the structural integrity of the paver itself through the entire thing, which doesn't necessarily create a completely 100% smooth surface to that paver. You will see some small pockets throughout that product. Now, face mix, on the other hand, has the same structural integrity of the through mix pavers. As you can see, that larger aggregate is throughout that mixture, but on the top surface, we see a much finer grain that is then placed on top of that paver, and this creates a smooth surface to that paver, so you still get that structural integrity that is provided by the larger aggregates throughout that paver, but with a fine finish on the surface of that paver. And face mix is generally more expensive than through mix when you're comparing the same paver line. In addition to thickness of pavers and slabs, you also need to think about the size of those pavers and slabs. Larger format lends itself to more of a modern look, whereas smaller format to mid format, more of a traditional look. And then we can talk about texture, where once again, a smooth texture lends itself to more of a modern appeal, and a textured surface lends itself more to a traditional look. And finally, we can talk about sealing, because now manufacturers are actually factory sealing some of their products, especially their wet cast products, and having them factory sealed adds to the value of them, as well as it reduces efflorescence, which is a byproduct of concrete and shows as a white substance on the surface of your products, and factory sealing just eliminates that. Typically, these are mostly for wet cast being factory sealed, but we do see some dry cast products also being factory sealed. And once again, this comes at an added cost. And then we can talk about color blends that are available, and all of them that are available through different slabs and pavers on the market through different variety of manufacturers. And this will ultimately come down to personal preference, personal taste, as well as trying to find a theme with the house that you are building to, much like you would choose a theme such as modern or traditional to go along with that space. Now, ultimately, color blends are more consistent in terms of their look, though batch numbers can look slightly different. So when you're ordering pavers or slabs and they show up on site and you see that they might have a different batch number, this could mean that they are very slightly different, even though they are the same color blend. So you want to choose from each of those palettes as you lay, not laying a full single palette and then going to the next one. You want to disperse that as much as possible to get the best color blend possible. And typically, when you are looking at just a basic paver design for a patio, walkway, driveway, you typically have a border that is a darker tone and a contrasting tone to that which is in the field, the majority of the walkway, patio, or driveway. And if you want to learn more about everything that I've just talked about here, you can sign up to our members only platform on How to Hardscape. You can go to members.howtohardscape.com or go to the link in the description below if you want to learn more about everything that we have talked about here and just interlocking concrete pavement in general, installation, design, selling, whatever it might be for your business and for what you want to grow into as a service. If you want to get into hardscaping or looking to expand your business into hardscaping, that will help you for sure. And if you aren't already listening to the How to Hardscape podcast, I do urge you to check that out. There's lots of great topics covered through industry expert interviews and many more different types of episodes on the How to Hardscape podcast. Search that on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you would listen to podcasts. I hope this video has helped you for whatever reason choosing the right pavers, slabs for your project, and to help you with this knowledge so that you can pass it down to your clients when you're getting into that design process or for your own project at home. Leave any comments in the comment section below, any questions, thoughts, anything that you want to add to this. Like this video if you found it helpful for whatever reason, and subscribe to this YouTube channel for more hardscaping content. Thank you so much for watching.